leading provider of essential services for facilities and infrastructure. ARA. Here for you, here for good.
Welcome to Everyday Greatness, and thanks for watching. I'm Barnaby Howarth. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're filming these interviews, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I love being Australian, so it gives me a lot of pride to say to thank our Indigenous brothers and sisters for walking hand in hand to make this a better country. I've decided to concede a weakness on Series 11. I'm not the most charismatic fellow going around, and my podcast sometimes bores me when I watch replays. So I've decided to ask one of the most charismatic people I know to host this Series 11 of Everyday Greatness, talking about building stronger athletes, teams and communities. So I'll hand you straight over to Georgia Lea.
Thanks so much, Barnaby. That is so not true. You are never boring. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, Barnaby, and you are my inspiration. So welcome to Everyday Greatness and our panel today, which is all about building stronger communities through the game they play in heaven. So we all know Australian communities are really strong, but they don't start out that way through no hard work. So especially our Australian sporting communities are really, really strong, and we are all part of that in some way here today. It doesn't happen by sheer luck. People in those communities and all of our communities are not built with a generic predisposition to build sporting communities and working as a team and helping those in need, or having a dedication to all of the hard work that goes into building a community. A lot of intentional and strategic work goes into making our communities really strong. And one of the groups leading the charge is Rugby Australia, whose 4-year strategic plan, From Green to Gold, is emphasising the importance of community interaction from top players to the coaches. Professional sport is really the pointy end of building stronger communities. And all that work done by clubs and pubs and schools is really inspired, and even Facebook groups is really inspired by those professional athletes. And to talk us through how community strength is built, it's a really great pleasure to welcome our panel today from the pointy end and those who are really entrenched in building communities themselves. So our panel today, Michael Procajlo, the Director of Community Rugby at Rugby Australia. He's a leader dedicating to weaving inclusion, development and connection in every facet of Australian rugby. Welcome.
Thanks,
Michael's spearheaded groundbreaking initiatives that bring the strength of rugby to communities nationwide. And I think I still pronounced his name wrong, so sorry, Michael. Andrew Crofts, CEO of Randwick Groups of Clubs. Andrew's not only a seasoned leader in the community-based sport and hospitality, but someone who understands how to strengthen communities through genuine connection, shared purpose, and powerful experiences. Welcome. Greg Moran, our writer, actor, director, and great human here to my left. Greg's overcome remarkable challenges and now champions the spirit of resilience and unity in Rugby Union. Through his connection with Hearts in Rugby Union, Greg's journey isn't just about sport, it's about how communities uplift one another and how the game becomes a powerful vehicle for belonging. Welcome. And Tim Rapp, Director of Coaching Development at Newington College. Tim's journey began as a professional player himself with the New South Wales Waratahs, and he's since become a pivotal force in coaching and development. Currently, he's the Director of Coaching Development at Newington, and his extensive experience also includes being the General Manager of Rugby and Head Coach of the Waratahs, as well as coaching positions with the Australian Rugby Union and junior representative teams. Welcome. Fabulous, fabulous panel. Of course, they wouldn't all be here except for the wonderful man that has brought us all together. Well done, Barnaby. So we're going to get into it. The questions, hard-hitting interview questions here we've got today. But really, it's all about community and sport, and we're going to hear from people that really live that every day. So first of all, we're going to start with the why. Why do you believe that community sport, particularly rugby, serves as such a powerful catalyst for building stronger, more connected communities? And what is it about the game they play in heaven that uniquely lends itself to creating cohesion and belonging? We're going to hear from Michael because that's what he does every day. So over to you, Michael.
There's a lot to it. So I guess community sport, when it's done well, at the end of the day, sport should be a reflection of the general local community. And the beauty of sport is it brings people together from all walks of life. So you've got the opportunity to see people from different backgrounds, cultures, genders, ethnicities, etc., that are all united by a game that they want to play. So that's a good starting place. And then community sport exists, through volunteers as well. So it's great for the players to come together and interact with each other, but you rely on coaches, you rely on managers, you rely on administrators, you rely on all the other volunteers that help effectively run training and game days every single week. And sport's full of winning and losing. It's full of highs and lows, it's full of periods of challenge, and it's filled with periods of success. So when you wrap all those things together, you're building resilience, you're building strength, you learn a lot about yourself, and you're doing it as part of a big network as well, which is what makes sport so great. When you enjoy those periods of success, everyone celebrates together. When you go through those periods of challenge, there's other people to lean on, there's other people to lift you up when you're feeling down, and that in itself really develops a lot of people. So I think that's really important about sport, and again, when it's done well, we hear plenty of bad stories about what can happen on the weekend also. On a rugby side of things, I think there's a couple of unique things about rugby. Everyone talks about the values of the game. Everyone talks about the fact that it's a fierce game. It's played tough on the field, but as soon as you're off that field, it's nothing but admiration and respect. So when games are played, you see international games all the time, games at all different levels, and there's a shake of the hand after the game. There's interaction in the dressing rooms after the game, and a lot of that sort of what might look like animosity that might exist on the field is sort of gone away after that. Probably the other unique thing about rugby is that it really is a game for all shapes and sizes. I mean, where else would we see a player like Will Skelton, who might weigh 140 to 150 kilos, or maybe 135 on the team sheet, or that's what he tells the coach, versus someone like Tate McDermott, who would be half of that. And they both play a pivotal role in that team. And again, how many sports really have those sort of setups where, again, all shapes and sizes. So it just adds to, I guess, the diversity that rugby has.
Fabulous, thank you. Another question is around the actions and initiatives that clubs and community leaders, or even everyday citizens like us, take to leverage sport as a vehicle for strengthening community ties. So what are the key steps that you recommend, Andrew, in bringing clubs together in the work that you do in the community?
Well, I think it's important to note that clubs are probably the basis for a lot of sporting organisations already. And I think that a lot of clubs don't get enough recognition for doing that, particularly rural clubs where they are, the only club, or there's one pub in the town. And they might be for team meetings, but also for sponsorship. But just, sporting organisations are there to bring people a common purpose and a common objective from all walks of life. So the beauty of sport is that it brings people together and allows you to do that. Clubs are sort of a pathway for them to be able to do that. Not only through sponsorship and things like that, but I think that clubs, we do focus on that, and we're really proud of what we do there. The work we do within the community, the fact that we already have established networks and things there are really helpful for organisations when they're starting out, but also as they progress. And not just for grassroots sport as well, but there are a lot of adults that play sport. There are a lot of guys my age who still think they're 20 and run around and do hamstrings and things like that. But I think that's one important thing that the clubs do. In terms of the community does get on board, but it's mainly the people that are involved in that club. And I think, as Michael was saying, there's people from all walks of life, and rugby is an inclusive game where any shapes and sizes can play. Often you get a hooker taking a hit up from the back line, which is probably shouldn't have been there. But I think that the community, at the moment we have never been more disconnected and connected at the same time. So the community involvement there and clubs getting other people involved, not just the organisation. So there's other organisations involved with clubs that will also help these organisations as well. So I think that's important. And then obviously the volunteers, the mums and dads and the people who turn up every week and do the canteen and things like that, they're important and they should be recognised.
So if all these actions are taken consistently, what kind of outcomes can communities and those involved in grassroots sport expect to see? Are we talking improved social cohesion, youth development, health and wellbeing, or is it something deeper? I'm going to ask Tim, especially with how you measure those at a school level and education level at your school and wider.
Yeah, sure. I think, yes, to answer your question straight up, there is a whole lot of deeper meaning around sport and measurables and indicators and stuff like that. 100%, you've got your scoreboard, it's win or loss records, that sort of thing. They're objectives and you get outcomes from them, but without a doubt, in a school environment, retention of numbers is important. Seeing our kids playing sports, doesn't matter what it is, rugby obviously in this instance, but whatever sport it might be, the ability to have sport involved in their lives gives them that little bit more. It's a connection point for some to bring them into an environment where you're all sort of shared experiences from common people. I think from a parent's perspective as well as a schooling's perspective, there's no real better feeling or seeing a young boy, young girl walk off the sporting field, whatever it may be, smiling. And that's a measurable. I think we're sort of losing track of it at the moment. Time, we're all time poor. So we're trying to get from one point to another, but to have that opportunity to have time where you can slow down, have that kid walk off the footy field and in this instance and to actually be smiling about the outcome. And that may not be a scoreboard outcome, it may be an involvement outcome, it may be a new position, or to celebrate with your teammate who's done something different or for the first time in their lives. They're the indicators that we want to look for.
And I can attest to this man. He's coached my nephew at Newington, and he always had a smile on his face. So, and he's gone on to play in professional levels. So thanks, Tim. So finally, for those who may be inspired but unsure where to begin, what advice would you give each of us and offer to someone looking for help to build a stronger, more resilient community through sport? Where should they start and how can they sustain the momentum? So let's hear from you, Greg.
First starts with your team and your teammates and all that sort of stuff. And then obviously bringing in, I think that's one of the great things about a sport like rugby is that there is that social aspect. And as we were saying earlier, once you play hard on the field, but then when you get off the field, you end up with friends and mates from the opposition and all that sort of stuff. So you can bandy together. And I find that, the rugby has a great community spirit, and you're bonded obviously within the smaller games when you're playing with a team, and then also obviously we're bonded by the internationals and all that sort of stuff. So I think where to start, with a thing like say Hearts in Rugby Union, which is a great support for people like myself who have been injured playing rugby. They get a lot of support just from small community functions, and then it goes all the way up to Rugby Australia, and every little thing helps along the way. You know? So I don't know if I've really answered your question there or not, but
it's great. It's great. Well, I think Hearts of Rugby is a great example of that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a real grassroots foundation that's really, combined with Rugby Australia too. I mean, for people like myself, they've done lots of things like raise money to buy modified vehicles you can I can drive my chair into and all that sort of stuff, and help with, you know, modifications. I mean, something like the NDIS is a wonderful thing, and we're very grateful for that. But then there's also lots of areas that it can't fund, and organisations like Hearts and Rugby Union steps in to fill those gaps and support people like myself. Just it makes life a bit easier to be able to get out and participate in the community and get on with your life to the best of your ability as you can, obviously within your limitations that you've got.
Yeah, and you continue to inspire the community through everything you're doing as well.
Well, that's my job, obviously. No, but yeah. I don't know. I mean, inspiration's a funny thing. You just get on and do what you're doing, and if people find that inspiring, that's wonderful, you know. And I mean, I find lots of people inspiring as well. So I think it's
that's what community's all about.
Yeah, well, it's like Barnaby says, you know, you just got to get on and do things, and you'll get there in the end. You know?
Wonderful, thank you. Well, you want to hold that? So that brings the panel to a close for Everyday Greatness. I want to thank our guests for all of your insights, and thank you for dropping so many pearls of wisdom for our audience. So join me in thanking Michael, Andrew, Greg and Tim. And as you can hear from that applause, thank you to our live audience for joining us, and thank you all for watching. List the sponsors, of course.
Sure.
Would you like to do that?
I'd love to do that.
Okay.
So the ARA Group is our major sponsor, and I would love to thank them. I want to thank Zach and Dynamic Media Productions for filming and doing all the technical work. And thank you to our sensational venue, Rugby Australia, Michael, Richard Toms, Susie at the front for this venue. It's been spectacular, and I think we're really privileged to have heard from legends of Australian sport. So thank you all for joining us. And just quickly, remember you can watch Everyday Greatness on YouTube. So jump on there, subscribe to Everyday Greatness, and you can join our next episode where we'll be speaking about building stronger women's sports from some people who know all about it. Tasha Saint, the CEO of the WNBL, Jenny Sager, the Managing Director of ESE, the agency, Alex Williamson, and Diane Williams-Harripan, one of the legendary not-for-profit gurus of the world. So thank you all for watching, and thank you again, guys, for joining us.